What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video we are going through the 2024 end of year MMA awards that took place in the UFC, or that I'm going to be handing out to events and fighters and everything that took place in the UFC this year. I got a bunch of categories. We're going to go through all of them. I'm going to try not to spend too long because you guys know I have chronic yap disease. I will start talking for about 10 minutes on one topic if I don't tell myself to shut the fuck up. So I will be trying to keep it brief for each topic. If you want my explanation and my breakdowns of all these fights and KOs and fighters of the year, then watch my previous videos. I've done tier lists for fighter, KO, all that stuff, fight of the year, all of that. So yeah, go watch those videos. Other than that, you can read through some of the categories now. We got some more funny ones. We got the standard ones, KO, submission, all that. And then, yeah, we got some funny ones. We got the clip farmer of the year. We got some other ones. We got the fucking worst scorecard of the year. But anyway, let's get into the video. Okay, so first up, we got the title fight fighter of the year. Now, I wanted to split it between title fight fighter and non-title fight fighter just so I could just extend the awards and give out another one, to be honest. But also because I want to have some separation, because I do think winning belts means more than winning, like, contender fights. Like, I can't say Charles Johnson's a better fighter this year than Pantoja because he beat 4 fighters who were bums. But without further ado, the nominations: Alex Poatan Pereira, Ilia Topuria, Merab Dvalishvili, Dricus Duplessis, real African champion, and then Alejandro Pantoja. I'm not including Bilal, I'm not including Islam. Those guys fought once, you're not on the list. But those are the 5, and the winner is Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria got 2 KOs over 2 featherweight greats this year. In my opinion, that clears Alex Pereira's 3 wins over subpar, like top elite competition. But anyway, Ilia Topuria, congratulations, you win this award. Anyway, moving on. The next category is the non-title fighter of the year, or the contender of the year, you could say. And we've got good nominations here. A lot of guys had big 2024s outside of the title fights. Joaquin Buckley is the first nomination with 4 wins. Carlos Prates, you know already, he's going to be another nomination. Nasruddin Imavov, 3 wins, 2 main events, 1 co-main event. Great performances this year. We had Hanato Money Moicano. Let me tell you something. And then we had Diego Lopez as well, who, despite winning 3 fights this year and jumping to number 3 in the rankings, has somehow managed to just go forgotten, not even really be in the conversation for best fighters of the year. But without further ado, the winner is Joaquin Buckley. Man, shut your bitch ass off when you're trying to hear your bitch ass, man. Joaquin Buckley gets the win. Congratulations, Joaquin. 4 wins, 3 finishes. Climbed the rankings astronomically, and I do rate his wins higher than Prates. So anyway, let's move on. The next category to discuss is the KO of the year. I've already done a tier list of this. We've seen a bunch of vicious KOs in 2024, and the nominations that I've put forward, it was difficult to narrow it down to the best 5. But in my opinion, Max Holloway against Justin Gaethje, Vinicius Oliveira against Bernardo Sopai, we had Esteban Hibovic against Terrence McKinney with a head kick, we had Ilia Topuria against Max Holloway, and then we had Fares Ziam kneeing Matt Frivola's skull into the fucking orbit. So yeah, those are the KOs. There was a bunch of other ones. Salikov got a good spinning wheel kick. There were some sick finishes. Buckley slept Wonderboy. Lots of crazy KOs. Ilya slept Volk as well, CGI. But anyway, without further ado, this one's probably the least controversial pick of the list. The KO of the year is Max Holloway against Justin Gaethje. The combination of everything, the stakes of that fight, the position that it was in the card, and the dramatic ending just made that KO, in my opinion, it's going to go down as probably one of the best of all time. So anyway, good stuff. Let's move on. Next up, we have the submission of the year. Now, we all know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu does not work in MMA. It's a fake martial art. Of course, I would just stand up personally. But for those who can't just stand up because they're not built different like me and they don't see red, the submissions of the year, this is what happened. We had a Khamzat Chimaev face crank against Hobbit Whittaker. We had a Dricus Duplessis rear naked choke against Israel Adesanya. We had an Islam Makhachev Darce choke submission against Dustin Poirier. We had a Paddy Pimblett triangle armbar against Bobby Green, and then we also had a Yair Rodriguez getting submitted by Brian Ortega with a head and arm. But I think the most dramatic and the most impressive submission of all was Khamzat Chimaev submitting Robert Whittaker in round 1 in 3 minutes, ran him over, subbed him, broke his fucking jaw. This was nuts. I think it was the most impressive. I think it's the highest level opponent in terms of like a ground game to overcome. So yeah, Khamzat Chimaev wins this award in my opinion. Let's move on. Now we move on to the fight of the year. There were a bunch of great scraps in 2024. I've already done a tier list of about 30 or 35 fights that took place this year, ranking them in terms of great fights, good fights, amazing fights, Hall of Fame level fights. So you can go check that out as well after this video. But in my opinion, the 5 nominations that we have are Esteban Ribovic versus Daniel Zellhuber, Majtebek Oralbai versus Mateusz Rambecki, Dan Hooker versus Mateusz Gamrot. We had Billy Goff against Trey Waters, and then just for the sake of it, I'll put Holloway Gaethje, even though I don't think it's a top 5 fight of the year, just because of the KO, just because of the moment. People are going to glaze it and act like it's the best fight of all time, just because it had a KO and a good 5th round. Anyway, in my opinion, the winner is Ribovic versus Zellhuber. I've already talked about why in my video, but this shit was nuts. These two threw 306 strikes in the 3rd round, which took place in 300 seconds. That's ridiculous. Enough said. Moving on. Next, we move on to the Rookie of the Year. Now, there was a bunch of fighters who debuted this year. Now, this is not like the debut performance of the year. I will have that after this. This is just which fighter that made their debut this year had the best 2024, had the biggest impact on the sport, on the fan base, asserted themselves as a contender. We got some nominations. Carlos Prates, Gene Silva, Felipe Lima, Zhang Mingyang, and Vinicius Oliveira. I think those are some good nominations. Umar Sy is another guy. Mauricio Hufi is another guy. There's a bunch of fighters. I'm not including MVP or Kayla Harrison because both of them, one MVP lost a fight, so he's not even going to be here. But like Kayla Harrison, she's an established PFL world champion. I don't count her as a Rookie of the Year. Like, hell, get out of here. But the winner, you already know, it's CP. CP's winning the award for Rookie of the Year, which is a concerning correlation there that I've made, but you already know he's that guy. Let's move on, though, to the next category. Now we're going to talk about the debut of the year, the individual first fight of these guys' UFC careers. So we got Mauricio Rufi against Jamie Malaki at UFC 301. He won by round 1 TKO. We then had Felipe Lima coming in on short notice to submit Muhammad Naimov in round 3. We also had Vinicius Oliveira in a tough back and forth fight against Bernardo Sopai with a round 3 KO. We also had Carlos Prates against Trevor Giles with a round 2 KO, and we also had Zhang Mingyang finishing Brenson Hiberio in round 1 by finish. But in my opinion, the individual debut of the year has got to go to Mauricio Rufi. This guy had people saying he's the next fucking reincarnated Conor McGregor 20 seconds into his UFC career. Like, Prates had a great 2024. He had a better 2024 than Rufi, undeniably, but he didn't quite have that same level of like just flawless debut. So Rufi, you win this award. Congrats, mate. Moving on. Now we've got the most improved fighters of the year. Now this is certainly, I'm going to miss a few. You guys are going to say, what about this guy? I don't care. This is who I thought of off the top of my head. We got Joaquin Buckley. We got Charles Johnson, we got Hanato Mani Moicano, we got Yusuf Salal and Nasruddin Imavov. So Joaquin Buckley, we know the career of him. He was the spinning kick guy for ages. He was a middle-of-the-road 500 fighter at fucking middleweight, ends up turning his career around at welterweight. Salal legitimately got cut from the fucking promotion, came back, secured 3 finishes this year. Charles Johnson, 4-0 this year after being a pretty much journeyman in flyweight. And then the other guys, you already know, Imavov, not quite as much so of a turnaround, and Moicano as well. But the winner, and going 2 for 2 on the awards, is going to be Joaquin Buckley. I think this man is the most improved fighter of the year. This dude went from a journeyman middleweight getting KO'd by Alessio DiCerico to fucking sleeping wonder boy. That's nuts. Anyway, moving on. Okay, this one doesn't need to be said, but the pay-per-view of the year, you already know it's 300, but the other nominations that I've got here, I've got 299, I've got 305, I've got 306 and 308. In my opinion, it was a toss-up for the 5th place between 306 and 298 with the Volk Topuria card, because I think Volk Topuria had a better main and co-main, obviously. Like, if you put the main and co-main of Volk Topuria on the Sphere card, that's a fucking all-time card, I swear to God. Because people forget, man, the Sphere card was actually sick. Like before the main and co-main. Like Lopez was awesome, the fucking fight of the year in my opinion. Osborne fight was sick, Van fight was sick, there was a nasty KOs, right? Like this card was amazing. except for the main and co-main. The production as well, I'm going to give it the edge for the production, and plus Dana White told me to, because he spent fucking 20 million on this and it kind of flopped. But anyway, 300's the card of the year. You guys already know this shit was ridiculous. It was the pinnacle. This was the thing we were making it through the swamp to try and get to, and it wins the award, rightfully so. Moving on though. Next up, this one's slightly more competitive, but still with a pretty clear winner in my opinion. The Fight Night card of the year. We got 5 nominations. First off, UFC St. Louis between Derek Lewis and Rodrigo Nascimento, and the rest of the card was pretty fun as well. We had UFC Louisville with Cannonier and Amava with some sick finishes on that card. We had Saudi Arabia, the UFC's debut in the Middle East, in the Kingdom I should say, with Whitaker and Aliskerov. I think this would have elevated a little bit if it was Hamzat in there. Then we had Jan Figueiredo, which was a sick card, UFC Macau, and then we had UFC Tampa to end off the year, and that is going to be my winner in my opinion. UFC Tampa was nuts. Just look at the finishes on screen. We had Cap gaining aura, we had Jacoby sleeping, Jacoby turning into fucking prime Masvidal, we had Billy Q getting slept, we had Joel Alvarez masterclass. We had all of the above, everything that you want on a Fight Night card, so this wins the award in my opinion. Anyway, let's move on. Now we move on to the flawless performance of the year. Now, I want to preface this by saying this is not a level of opponent thing. This is not like, oh my god, Holloway beat Gaethje and that's a better win than Manel Kape beating Bruno Silva. I'm looking at like who was just flawless. I'm not saying you went out there and got a fucking 10-second KO. That's cool. But like, I'm saying like prolonged, most of these past one round at least, and fighters where they just schooled them the whole time and put on an absolute fucking elite performance. So we got Alex Portan Pereira against Jiri Prohaska. We had Joel Alvarez against Elvis Brenner. We had Manel Kape against Bruno Silva. We had Carlos Prates against Li Jingliang. And then we had, what was the last one? Hamzat Chimaev against Robert Whitaker. The winner's going to be Manel Kape though, because yes, Hamzat beating Whitaker is a more impressive win. It's not about that. It's about watching the fight, who was just in the zone, who was just looking absolutely out of the league of their opponent. And in my opinion, that was Manel Kape. So yeah, let's move on. Next up, we got the Clip Farmer of the Year category. I was thinking about like some categories to do, and then as I did flawless performance, I was like, okay, that reminded me, what could I include here? And I said Clip Farmer because that's what Manel Kape was doing. I'm not going to give him this award though. We do have him as a nomination, but we got other nominations. Alex Pereira, we got Carlos Prates, we got Manel Kape as mentioned, we got Mauricio Hufi, and then we got Michael Chandler, who's failing to clip farm but still trying anyway, so I got to respect the effort. Yeah, clip farming, I don't need to give you guys the rundown on what it is. It's just they're fighting to try and get fucking edits of themselves made. They're trying to look good for the TikTok edits, for the casuals. Be like, damn, bro. They're looking good for the Joe Rogan edits. This guy's nasty. That's the kind of edit that these guys are looking to be in. And in my opinion, Alex Pereira wins the Clip Farmer of the Year. This dude was on smoke. He was doing the shit with Jamal Hill. He was sleeping Yuri and then KOing him 5 seconds into the second round. He was finishing Khalil Roundtree with nasty combinations, walking him down, doing the head movement in the fucking Matrix. Like, this dude has so many edits made of him this year, it's not even funny. You could say Holloway just for that point down at the end. You could say some other guys, but in my opinion, these are some good nominations, and Alex Pereira is going to take the win here. Let's move on though to the next nomination, also the next award. Next up, upset of the year. Now, this is low. A lot of these are lower profile because I was looking more at betting odds wise. But if you want to say just a general, like the thought process of like, oh, I didn't expect Bilal to beat Leon and that, you can put him there too. But anyway, Mike Malott losing to Neil Magny. I don't know why it's saying Malott beating Magny. Magny beating Malott. Diego Ferreira beating Mateusz Rambecki. OSP beating Kennedy Nzechukwu, Zahabi beating Javid Basharat, and then Gabriela Fernandez beating Wang Kong. There's a lot of upsets that took place this year, not quite as many as last year. Last year was indeed the year of the fluke, but Gabriela Fernandez is going to win this for the submission as a plus 675 against Wang Kong. Good job to her. Anyway, let's move on. Next up, we got the fraud check of the year. Yeah, now, done with the compliments, done with the saying, good job, guys, you did really well. Yeah, these guys, these are the bums that came into the year as hyped up prospects and left the year to the GFL. Pack it up, buddy, you're cooked. You're never touching a title. So, the nominations. Benoit Saint-Denis losing 2 fights and not winning in 2024. That's tough. Roblobos de Spain displaying the takedown defense of Darren Till at heavyweight. We've got as well, we have Vitor Petrino. You can't be losing to fucking Anthony Smith, buddy. Just pack it up at that point. We also got Wang Kong, as just mentioned, and then we also got Mike Malott, the next Canadian hope, you would call him, who then went on to fucking lose to Neil Magny. But the winner of the fraud check of the year is going to be Robbery to Spain. This dude came in, won his debut, lost 2 fights, and then got cut to karate combat within a year of debuting. That's ridiculous. You can't be losing to Austin Lane. Like, that's just inexcusable. Bro, like, BSD losing to fucking Moicano and Poirier, yeah, that ain't as bad as this dude losing to fucking Robbery to Spain, losing to fucking Waldo, Cortez Acosta, and Austin Lane, the bums of heavyweight. Anyway, let's move on though to the next category. Now, keeping on with the negativity as we do, we got the worst year. There was some fighters that had some fucking stinker years. This is not quite the same as fraud check. It's along the same lines, but this isn't like related to just prospects. This is just in general who had an absolute stinker. The nominations: Marc-Andre Berrios, the only fighter to lose 3 times this year. We also had Tai Tuivasa. He's packed it up. He's packed up his bag. He's packed up his Uber Eats order, and he's gone off to the fucking corner to sit on the couch and play Fortnite. Also, who else do we have? Vitor Petrino, shocking year. We got Johnny Walker, awful year. And then, yeah, we got the other and then BSD, I'm pretty sure as well. Who cares? I can't even see what I'm looking at right now. But anyway, the worst year, it's got to go to Marc-Andre Berrios. You cannot be getting slept twice. This dude got KO'd in his own country. He got flatlined by Joe Pyfer. He lost in his own country twice. That's tough. Like, if this dude's still got a contract, we need to have a talk with the UFC, because that's inexcusable. Anyway, off to the GFL with you, buddy. Moving on though. Next up, we've got the post-fight interview of the year. This is a more light-hearted category, and there was a few great post-fight interviews this year. I'm going to go with, for the nominations, Renato Moicano's post-UFC 300 post-fight interview after beating Jalen Turner. We also have his nomination for his win after BSD, over BSD, where he called out Macron. He said, "Fuck Macron, fuck globalist," and fully tried to start a French Revolution again. We also have Grant Dawson shouting out his wife's behind and how that motivates him to become a better fighter, which I immensely respect. We also had Brian Battle also on that UFC Paris card with Moicano, who walked out to melanated people in Paris and then proceeded to fucking, no, you didn't think the Butcher was going to lose in a fist fight to a French dude. Like, he was going off, having a great time. Amazing post-fight interview, but at the end of the day, he then missed weight in his next fight, which is tough. And then who's the other nomination? Joaquin Buckley, for actually doing an amazing post-fight interview. Not quite as funny as the other ones, but getting the crowd involved, letting them pick his next opponent. A wonderful post-fight interview from Joaquin Buckley. But the winner is going to be Moicano. Now, I don't even know which one to give it to. Both of them were great. The one against Dober was good too. I'm going to go home and get my wife pregnant. Like, I don't know. My dad's 62 years old. He had a baby yesterday. Like, this dude was going crazy on the post. You could create a whole compilation of Moicano's post-fight interviews just from this year alone. So, yeah, I don't care which one wins it, but Moicano wins this shit. Battles was cool, but it doesn't compare to Moicano. Let's move on, though, to the next one. Now, we're done talking about fighters. Let's talk about judges. I should have done a referees thing as well, or like a worst stoppage now that I think about it, but too late now. But anyway, worst robberies of the year. Nominations: Gan Volkov, split decision UFC 310. Fakhretdinov versus Carlos Leal, which somehow was a unanimous decision at UFC 308. We had Raquel Pennington against Pena, just because I had to include one women's MMA fucking fight on this entire video. We had Jose Aldo Bautista, not because I think this was like a top 5 most indefensible scorecard of the year, but just because I hate Bautista, and you shouldn't be able to win a fight by doing that. And then last up, we got Isaac Dolgarian against Christian Rodriguez, also a pretty questionable decision in my mind. The winner's going to be Gan Volkov, though. It was close between this and the Leal fight. I think the Leal fight, being a unanimous decision for Renat, was indefensible, and also a 30-27. It was the worst. Like, this was Gan scraped the second round on 2 cards. It was bad, but it was like, okay, it's like, you can, if they're being extra dumb, you can see it. Like, Carlos Leal, Renat Fakhretdinov being the worst. I think that was one of the worst scorecards. That 30-27. Look at the judge's name as well. His name was fucking Abdi Wali Kahamad or some shit. Like, this guy's name was like, you knew he was going to give that fight to Renat. And the fact that he gave it 30-27 is genuinely like cause for fucking corruption, like rigging of the scorecards. With his Gan Volkov, you can be like, okay, it's just bad judging. With his this was like, okay, that's fucking rigged. But overall, in terms of high profile as well, I'm going to give the edge to Gan Volkov. I really feel bad for Volkov. He won this fight. But regardless, let's move on though to one more category. We're going to wrap it up with the worst scorecards. Now, when I say this, I'm not going to have fights where it's like 2 judges gave it to a guy and that was the bad decision. I'm going to have like individual scorecards that stood out. Maybe they were the dissenting judge in one that didn't get the win, like with Costa Strickland, for example. I'll have that here. But yeah, let's read through some of these. Renat 30-27 against Carlos Leal. Tuivasa 30-27 against Rosenstrike. Costa 49-46 against Strickland. Tatsuro Taira against Royval. Hernandez 30-27 against Damon Jackson. Almeida against Kopolov. We had Mitch Raposo against Lima. All of those 3-1, 3-0-2. Some shocking judging on that night. McKee against Njokuani. Moreno 49-46 against Royval. Berayu against Chris Curtis. And then Charles Jourdain against Sean Woodson were some of the worst individual scorecards I could find. So not all of these were like the actual guy that scorecard won, like Sean Strickland Costa, like Strickland won, but there was one judge that scored a 49-46 for Costa. So it was a difficult decision to try and think which one was the most incompetent, the worst, but I'm going to go with Tuivasa Rosenstrike being 30-27 for Tai Tuivasa. If you look on MMA decisions, none of the media members scored at 29-28 for Rosenstrike. It was all 30-27 Rosenstrike. None of them even scored it for Tai. None scored it for Rosenstrike. Every single fucking media member thought Rosenstrike won all 3. And this dude, Howie Booth, somehow managed to find all 3 rounds for Tai Tuivasa. And you know why this wins and why this is the worst of all of them? Is because this dude got removed from the arena after this and was not allowed to judge another fight for the rest of the night. That's how you know it's bad, because normally the commission will try and justify that. We're like, oh, I thought it was a defensible card. This one, they didn't even try. It was just so fucking bad that they couldn't even do it. So yeah, this wins the worst card in my opinion. But yeah, that will do it, guys. It's not a super long video. I could have dragged this out and gone for a fucking hour. I'm recording on my fucking iPhone right now for circumstances that are occurring. I'm getting a new phone soon, don't worry. But yeah, right now I have like limited storage, so I'm having to like keep my videos shorter and then delete them straight after I upload them off my phone to save storage. So I can't make this like an hour-long video because it just won't fit on my fucking device. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. If you want on stream and stuff, I'm gonna live stream it. So you guys can let me know there which like other categories you guys wanted to do. There's definitely some more funny ones we could have done. But anyway, that'll do it, guys. Goodbye, good night. I'm going to bed. It's too late. Anyway, see ya.